Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the video quality. I hope to get this fixed soon. With that said, I feel that it's time that I very much explain my views on stimming. Within the last few hours, an article I wrote a couple years ago has pretty much taken off on the internet, and unfortunately it is an article that I wrote that wasn't in the best nature when I wrote it. Unfortunately, out of the hundreds of videos and articles I've made, a few bad ones get through, and this was a bad article that I wrote. And not that I was trying to write a bad article. I mean, I always try to write quality articles, but sometimes, things aren't always clear. The article was called "How to Stop Stimming Behaviors," and the reason why I initiated the article was I was getting a lot of messages at speaking engagements. A lot of parents ask me, how do I stop my child from stimming? They're like, I feel like it's disrupting their child's behavior, and I explain to each parent that a child always, for me anyway, that I enjoy stimming, and I actually advised against it. But when I was writing the eHow article, first of all, they have a format. You can't really explain. It's more like you give instructions. You do this, and it's pretty much like that. So I didn't really get an opportunity to explain the tips, and I want to first of all say that my viewpoint never was that I'm against stimming behaviors. I actually, if you see my other videos that talk about stimming, you'd see that I actually very much talk about saying that stimming feels great, and that for the most part I do endorse stimming, and so so when I was writing the article, I was really writing it for people that were asking, who really want a solution, or some people who have a child with severe autism, they also have a very severe stimming problem where they just do it constantly. And sometimes there's even cases where the stimming is masturbation, something that is very indecent and does need to be stopped. I mean, you can't have a child or an adult masturbating in public. So really that was the purpose in me writing that article. And one of the steps that I wrote, I was very disappointed when I reread it again 2 years later, today, because I said one thing that you could do to stop stimming behaviors, and it is very offensive, and I said you could shame the child. And I know why I wrote that as a step. You see, with autism, you take things very seriously. I take things very seriously. So when someone says explain something, I give a very serious explanation. Sometimes I take it too literally. So sometimes with autism, you take things too literally. So how my stimming behaviors were stopped was I was shamed on. I had a third grade teacher who said, "Do you see any of the other kids stimming? They're not stimming. Why do you stim? And she made me feel bad about stimming. She shamed me for stimming essentially. And so I realized that was a solution. And unfortunately, when I wrote the article, I saw it from the perspective of what worked for me, and I didn't explain. Not that I necessarily should have even wrote it in the first place, but it was very inappropriate what I wrote, and I know why I wrote it. And like I said, I took things too literally, but that's not an excuse. The article is inappropriate. So my views on stimming: first of all, when I stim, it feels great. I've said this before in many videos, and when parents ask me, should I stop my child from stimming, I always tell them the same thing. It feels great, but it's disruptive to the classroom. I feel like my child's not doing anything. First of all, I try to explain, what stimming is like. I say, when I'm stimming, I'm getting very excited about something. It makes me feel great. And I said, but yeah, sometimes it can infringe upon one's life, and I do believe stimming sometimes can infringe upon one's life. And sometimes it does. And especially in those extreme cases, and you have a kid who's masturbating for their stimming behavior, it does need to be stopped. I don't think anybody is disagreeing on that aspect. And so that is why I offered that, why I wrote the article. So overall, it's a personal choice for the parent. I do believe that stimming does more good than harm in the long run. Sometimes stimming can get out of control. There are times where I will stim for a long stretch of time where I'm not being productive. Now I can stim for maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It does happen sometimes, even as a high-functioning adult. I'm sorry, that's not an appropriate term. As an adult, on the autism spectrum, and so, you know, even for me, you know, stimming can be an issue for me, and so I really did not write the article to say, here's a cure for your child, here's a way to make your child less autistic. No, I'm saying, you know, even for someone like me, you know, it's good to be able to put stimming aside so I can do regular work. And sometimes I don't want to put it aside. Sometimes it feels so great. And that's the problem, you know, because it does feel so great, because it is so stimulating. Sometimes it's hard to do anything else. And so I'm not saying, you know, cure stimming. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, you know, how to control stimming, how to make it so. And that's what I tell parents if a parent says, I want to stop my child from stimming, I said, okay, I still think your child should stim, but you need to, you know, they need to learn how to regulate that stimming. That's what I'm trying to advocate for. So in the article, I did not explain that. I wrote it 2 years ago. I really wasn't thinking when I wrote the article. I was just trying to offer an explanation for those people who are asking me the question. I really, like I said, it wasn't. I didn't think things through 100%. You know, it happens sometimes. You know, there are bad articles. I've written a few bad articles. I made a few bad videos. You know, it happens sometimes. I made hundreds of videos. You know, a few bad ones are going to get through. Sadly, the bad one's the one that's taken off. It's getting a crap load of hits. It's on ehow.com, so I can't take it off. I have emailed them. I said, you know what? This is an inappropriate article. Please take it down. When I wrote it, I don't know why. Well, I know why I wrote it, but I mean, you know, it just it's very unfortunate. And so I wish that my good videos would take off, you know, because what I really want to do is I want to empower people. You know, I want to empower people on the autism spectrum. You know, I feel like, you know, I want to empower someone on the autism spectrum to regulate stimming so that they can do what they want to do, so I can do what I want to do. You know, if I regulate my stimming, I love stimming. You know, it's one of the greatest things in the world. I mean, for me, it is. I really do enjoy it, and I don't think stimming is a bad thing, like I said. But regulating it is a good thing, and because, you know, then you can do what you want to do. You know, you can do your homework, you can do your schoolwork, you can do your job, you know, etc., etc., etc. So that was really what I was getting at there, and I didn't explain that in the article. I just said, hey, this is how you stop stimming. And so to people who read it, you know, it looks like I'm saying, hey, you know, your child is not acceptable the way they are. You know, autism should be cured, blah, blah, blah. You know, that is not my message. I mean, that article maybe makes that look like that's my message, but that is not my message. And I'm very disappointed by the article. I mean, I know, again, I explained why I wrote it, and, you know, I didn't see things from a wide perspective. You know, I didn't see things the way I should have seen it. I wish I had. I wish I had. So this is, well, first of all, I just want to clarify my viewpoints in STEM, and I also want to say that I am very sorry for that article. It is offensive, and I didn't mean it to be offensive, but it is offensive. And for anybody who I have hurt in any way, I am very much sorry. I am extraordinarily sorry. I am beyond disappointed by the article, and you know, like I said, you know, I have the best intentions when writing my articles, but sometimes when making YouTube videos, I do have the best intentions, but sometimes I don't explain things the way they should be explained, you know, or I forget the bigger picture. It happens sometimes. That's what happened here, and I am sorry for that. I thank you for watching today's video, and I hope that, again, if you were offended, that you can find it to forgive me. Thank you.